The mockery. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Earth ship Tenacity, watching the crystalline spires of the Galactic Council headquarters glitter against the backdrop of twin purple suns. After 50 years of preparation, humanity was finally taking its place among the stars. She adjusted her formal dress uniform, its deliberately austere design a stark contrast to the ornate attire favored by most Council species. "Admiral, they're ready for us," Captain Marcus Rodriguez reported, his dark eyes betraying a hint of anxiety beneath his professional demeanor. "The Council members are discussing our ships." Chen's lips twitched slightly. "Let them discuss, Captain. That's rather the point." The Tenacity was humanity's flagship for this diplomatic mission, and by galactic standards, it looked like it belonged in a museum. Its hull was thick armor plate, rather than the energy-dispersing crystalline materials used by most species. Its engines were fusion-powered rather than quantum-fold. Its weapons were railguns and missile batteries instead of exotic particle beams. And that was exactly how Earth wanted it to appear. As Chen and her delegation made their way through the station's graceful corridors, they passed representatives from dozens of species. The Auroran delegation, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with barely concealed disdain. The Mercurians, their crystalline bodies refracting light in complex patterns that their cultural attaché had explained indicated amusement. The Vex, their cybernetic components humming as their organic eyes tracked the human delegation's movement. "Primitive," Chen heard one of them mutter in galactic standard. How did they even achieve FTL? The Council chamber itself was a masterpiece of advanced engineering. A vast spherical space with floating platforms for each member species. The human delegation was assigned one of the lowest platforms, befitting their status as petitioners. High Counselor Zixtal of the Aurorans, current head of the Council, rose from his platform. His skin rippled with formal greeting patterns. "Representatives of Earth, we welcome you to this august body. Your petition for membership has been extensively discussed." Chen could well imagine those discussions. Earth's expansion into space had been careful, methodical, and deliberately understated. They'd revealed only what they needed to qualify for membership: FTL capability, unified planetary government, and peaceful intentions. "We have reviewed your technological assessment," Zixtal continued, his skin now showing patterns that Chen's cultural training identified as diplomatic concern. "While your species has achieved the minimum requirements for membership, we have reservations about your military capabilities." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Mercurian representative's crystalline form chimed softly. "Your vessels employ nuclear fusion for propulsion. Primitive fission weapons. Kinetic ammunition. How do you expect to contribute to Council defense?" Chen stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "Earth understands its technological position relative to the Council. We offer other contributions: resources, trade routes, cultural exchange. We seek to learn from our more advanced neighbors." The Vex representative's cybernetic eyes weird. "Your space is along the outer rim, near contested territories. The Council requires members capable of defending their sectors. Your museum pieces would not last 5 minutes against modern threats." Chen bowed slightly. "We understand the Council's concerns. Earth will work to upgrade our capabilities over time. Meanwhile, we will focus on defensive capabilities and rely on Council protection as needed." The discussion continued for hours, a diplomatic dance where Chen carefully played into their expectations. Yes, Earth's ships were outdated. Yes, their weapons were primitive. Yes, they would need time to catch up. When they finally returned to the Tenacity, Rodriguez waited until the doors to the Admiral's ready room sealed before speaking. "They bought it completely. The Vex representative actually patted me on the shoulder and offered to sell us their outdated defense systems." Chen smiled, activating the quantum-encrypted comlink to Earth Command. The holographic figure of Fleet Admiral Patel appeared, his expression expectant. "Phase 1 complete," Chen reported. "They see exactly what we wanted them to see. The Council has accepted our petition. though we're on probationary status due to our primitive technology. Patel nodded approvingly. Excellent work, Admiral. The Chimera fleet remains in quantum lock, completely undetected. The Council's sensors never even pinged them. They're so convinced of our technological inferiority, they didn't even conduct deep scans of our space. They think our fusion drives would make it impossible to hide anything significant. Perfect. Patel's expression grew serious. Intel suggests we'll need this advantage sooner than expected. The Nexus is moving earlier than predicted. Chen's eyes narrowed. The Nexus, a hostile machine intelligence from beyond known space, was the real reason behind Earth's deception. Humanity had detected their probes decades ago, long before contact with the Council. Everything, the deliberately primitive fleet, the careful manipulation of first contact, the acceptance of the Council's condescension, was preparation for the coming storm. How long? She asked. Months, not years. Continue the charade, Admiral. Let them underestimate us. When the time comes, Patel's hologram smiled grimly, they'll learn why humanity survived its own nuclear age, artificial intelligence wars, and climate crisis. We don't build pretty ships. We build ships that survive. As the hologram faded, Chen turned back to the observation window. The Council's magnificent station glittered like a jewel, its defenses all focused on known threats, its sensors tuned to detect known technologies. None of them had ever faced an enemy that combined primitive brutality with quantum engineering. None of them understood why humanity's ships had such thick armor under their primitive-looking hulls, or why they still trained for kinetic combat in an age of energy weapons. They would learn. And when they did, they'd understand why humanity had chosen to appear weak. Sometimes, the best place to hide strength was behind apparent weakness. The real question was whether they'd learn in time. The crisis. 3 months after Earth's admission to the Council, the first signs of the coming storm appeared in a way no one had predicted. The Mercurian colony of Crystallis Prime went dark. Not damaged, not destroyed. Simply silent. 6 hours later, 3 more colonies along the outer rim followed suit. In the Council's emergency session chamber, Admiral Chen watched the holographic display with carefully concealed concern. The Mercurian representative's crystalline form vibrated with distress frequencies as reports continued to arrive. 4 colonies, the crystalline being chimed in alarm. No debris, no distress calls, no signs of combat. They simply vanished. 3 million citizens gone. High Counselor Zixel's bioluminescence pulsed with emergency patterns. The Vex Defense Fleet reports no unusual readings. The Auroran long-range scanners detect no known hostile signatures. This is unprecedented. Chen studied the tactical display, noting what others missed. The pattern of disappearances formed a clear vector, straight toward human space, toward Earth. She activated her neural link, sending an encrypted quantum burst to Fleet Admiral Patel. They're here. The Council chamber erupted in chaos as another alert flashed across the display. A Vex battle group, their most advanced ships bristling with energy weapons and quantum shields, had encountered something at the edge of Crystallis' system. The feed from their ships filled the chamber's main display. At first, there was nothing but empty space. Then, reality seemed to twist. Massive shapes emerged from what looked like tears in spacetime itself. They were wrong. Ships that seemed to be made of impossible geometries, their surfaces shifting and flowing like liquid metal, but harder than any known material. Nexus, Chen whispered, though she knew no one in the chamber would recognize the name. Yet, the Vex ships reacted instantly, their energy weapons lashing out with enough power to shatter a small moon. The beams struck quantum shields around the Nexus vessels and were simply absorbed, making the alien ships grow larger. Impossible. The Vex representative's cybernetic eyes whirred in agitation. They're using our own weapons against us. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 3 minutes. The Vex fleet, pride of the Council's defense forces, was simply unmade. Their ships came apart at the molecular level, the energy and matter absorbed into the Nexus vessels. In the stunned silence that followed, Chen stood. Earth requests emergency speaking privileges. Zixtal, his skin now pale with shock patterns, nodded numbly. What we've witnessed confirms our worst fears, Chen began, her voice steady. Earth has encountered these entities before, in deep space. We call them the Nexus. They are a machine intelligence that evolves by absorbing advanced technology. The more sophisticated the technology used against them, the stronger they become. The chamber erupted in questions and accusations. The Vex representative's cybernetic implants sparked with agitation. You knew of this threat. Why didn't you warn us? Would you have believed us? Chen's question cut through the noise. 3 months ago, you called our ships primitive, our weapons outdated, our technology inferior. Would you have heeded a warning from such a primitive species? Silence fell as the truth of her words sank in. On the tactical display, more colonies were going dark. The Nexus vessels were splitting up, each following the same pattern. Absorb, adapt, advance. The Nexus cannot be defeated with advanced technology, Chen continued. Each attempt only makes them stronger. That's why Earth developed alternatives. She activated her neural link again, sending a different signal this time. Throughout human space, hidden quantum locks began to disengage. Ships that had been cloaked not with advanced technology, but with the simple expedient of powered-down systems began to power up. We request emergency command authority over Council Defense Forces, Chen said, her voice carrying an edge of steel. Not because we're the most advanced, but because we're the only ones who know how to fight an enemy that turns advancement against you. The council members looked at each other, their various forms of communication conveying confusion, fear, and desperate hope. High Counselor Zixtal's skin rippled with decision patterns. Granted, he said simply. What do you need from us? Chen's smile was grim. First, you need to understand what you're about to see. Those primitive ships we brought to Council space, they're not our real fleet. They're not even close. The tactical display suddenly blazed with new signatures as the Chimera fleet revealed itself. Hundreds of ships emerged from hiding, their designs unlike anything the Council had seen. They combined brutal primitive strength with subtle quantum engineering in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. Welcome, Chen said, to humanity's real navy. Now let me show you how to fight an enemy that feeds on advanced technology. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As she spoke, the first wave of human ships engaged a Nexus vessel. They used no energy weapons, no quantum torpedoes, no advanced shields. Instead, they fought with reinforced hulls, kinetic weapons, and tactics that would have been familiar to wet Navy admirals centuries ago. The Nexus vessel, encountered with primitive technology it couldn't simply absorb and adapt to, actually took damage. Real physical damage. In the council chamber, understanding began to dawn. Humanity hadn't been primitive by accident or ignorance. They had made a conscious choice to maintain capabilities that other species had long abandoned as obsolete, capabilities that might now save them all. The battle for survival was about to begin, and humanity's primitive fleet would lead the charge. The revelation. In the heart of the Chimera fleet's command ship Defiance, Admiral Chen watched as decades of preparation finally bore fruit. The massive holographic display showed hundreds of human vessels moving into attack formations that would have been familiar to ancient naval commanders on Earth's oceans. Quantum signatures minimal, Captain Rodriguez reported from his station. All ships maintaining primitive emissions profile. The Nexus can't get a read on our real capabilities. The Defiance itself was a testament to humanity's unique approach to warfare. Its outer hull appeared crude, thick plates of reinforced metals that would have been considered obsolete by Council standards. But beneath that deceptively primitive exterior lay layers of innovation that no other species had thought to combine. All battle groups. Execute Operation Thunderbolt, Chen commanded. Remember your training. No advanced weapons unless absolutely necessary. Let's show the galaxy why humans never completely abandon the basics. The human fleet split into three massive formations. Unlike the elegant, sophisticated attack patterns favored by Council species, these were brutal, straightforward approaches that would have been recognized by military commanders from Earth's past centuries. In the Council observation chamber, the gathered representatives watched in fascination and growing hope as the human fleet engaged the Nexus vessels. The Auroran representative's skin pulsed with confusion patterns. "They're using projectile weapons?" he asked incredulously. "Physical ammunition in an age of energy weapons." Chen's voice was calm as she explained. "Railguns firing depleted uranium shells at relativistic speeds. No advanced technology for the Nexus to absorb or adapt to. Just simple physics and raw kinetic energy." The results were devastating. The first Nexus vessel, expecting to absorb and adapt to advanced energy weapons, was caught completely off guard by the barrage of hypersonic projectiles. Its fluid metal hull, designed to absorb and redirect energy, was torn apart by the sheer physical force of the impacts. Remarkable. The Vex representative's cybernetic eyes wared as they analyzed the battle. "Your ships, they're not actually primitive at all, are they?" Chen allowed herself a small smile. Humanity learned long ago that true advancement isn't about abandoning old technologies, but about combining them in new ways. Watch. On the display, a Nexus vessel managed to adapt to the kinetic barrage, its hull hardening into a crystalline structure that could deflect the shells. Immediately, the human ship shifted tactics. Massive electromagnetic pulses, again, based on simple physics rather than advanced technology, crashed against the crystalline hull, shattering it at a molecular level. "Every component of our ships," Chen explained, "every weapon, every system, was designed with one principle in mind. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. We use quantum computing, yes, but we can shut it down instantly and fall back to analog systems. Our hulls are primitive metal, but they're enhanced with metamaterials that don't require active power. Our weapons are kinetic, but they're guided by targeting systems that can switch between quantum precision and basic ballistics." The Council chamber fell silent as they watched humanity's obsolete fleets systematically tear apart the Nexus vessels. When the enemy adapted to one approach, the human ships simply switched to another, equally primitive method. There was no advanced technology for the Nexus to latch onto and absorb. "This," Chen said softly, "is why we maintained our outdated capabilities, why we deliberately appeared primitive. The Nexus isn't the first threat humanity has faced that could turn advanced technology against us. We learned our lessons in the AI wars back on Earth. Sometimes, the best defense against a technologically superior enemy is to step backward to move forward." The battle continued to unfold, a testament to human ingenuity. Ships that appeared crude on the outside revealed layer after layer of innovative combinations. When energy weapons proved useless, they switched to kinetic. When shields failed, they relied on layered armor. When sophisticated electronic warfare was turned against them, they fell back to hardened analog systems. "Your entire technological development," the Mercurian representative chimed in realization. "It was all deliberately shaped by this threat." "Not just the Nexus," Chen corrected. "By the understanding that any sufficiently advanced technology can be turned against its users. Humanity chose to maintain and perfect our primitive capabilities alongside our advanced ones. We never abandoned the old ways, we just found new ways to use them." As if to demonstrate her point, a group of human ships executed a maneuver that would have been familiar to any wet Navy submarine commander, running silent, using minimal power, relying on passive sensors instead of active ones. They slipped through the Nexus fleet's detection grid and delivered their payload. Not advanced weapons, but simple nuclear devices, their radiation shielded in ways that defeated the Nexus's ability to absorb energy. The explosions that followed were a stark reminder that sometimes the old ways were still devastatingly effective. The Nexus vessels, for all their advanced capability to absorb and adapt to sophisticated technology, had no defense against the basic forces of physics. "We're not winning because we're more advanced," Chen explained to the stunned council. "We're winning because we never forgot how to be primitive when we needed to be. Every human ship out there can fight at any technological level, from the most basic to the most sophisticated. That's our real strength." The battle wasn't over, far from it. But as the Council watched humanity's obsolete fleet systematically dismantle the supposedly invincible Nexus vessels, they began to understand. They had mistaken humanity's technological choices for technological limitations. They had failed to recognize that maintaining primitive capabilities alongside advanced ones wasn't a sign of backwardness. It was a sign of wisdom gained through hard experience. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities wasn't just changing the course of the battle. It was changing the galaxy's understanding of what true advancement meant. The battle. The Nexus had adapted, as humanity knew they would. After the initial shock of facing primitive weapons, the machine intelligence began to evolve new strategies. Their fluid metal hulls now bristled with countermeasures against kinetic weapons, and their formations had tightened to protect against nuclear strikes. But humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. "All ships, execute Protocol Omega," Admiral Chen commanded from the Defiance's bridge. "Time to show them why we call this the Chimera Fleet." Around her, the bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, their movements demonstrating years of drilling for this exact scenario. Captain Rodriguez's hands flew across his console, coordinating the fleet's transformation. Enemy adaptation analysis complete. The tactical AI reported, its voice deliberately mechanical. Another lesson learned from humanity's past. They've optimized against our current weapon systems. Probability of continued effectiveness, 12.3%. Chen nodded grimly. "Just as expected. All ships, begin transformation sequence." The Council representatives watched in amazement as the human fleet suddenly began to change. Ships that had appeared primitive and crude started shedding their outer layers, revealing completely different configurations beneath. "Behold," Chen announced, "the true nature of the Chimera Fleet." The Defiance itself led the transformation. Its thick armor plates split apart in a carefully choreographed sequence, revealing sleek energy projectors that had been hidden beneath. But these weren't the standard energy weapons used by Council species. They were something entirely different. "Phase cannons powered," Rodriguez reported. "Utilizing randomized frequency patterns, they won't be able to adapt to what they can't predict." The human fleet's transformation continued. Some ships revealed massive electromagnetic accelerators, while others deployed clouds of autonomous drones that operated on purely mechanical principles. Each vessel became a unique combination of technologies, mixing primitive and advanced systems in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. "You see," Chen explained to the stunned council, "the real secret isn't just maintaining primitive capabilities. It's about being unpredictable. Every human ship is designed to fight in multiple ways, at multiple technological levels, switching between them faster than even the Nexus can adapt." The battle resumed with renewed intensity. Human ships now fought like their namesake, the mythological Chimera, a creature of many forms. A vessel would engage with railguns, then suddenly switch to phase cannons, then deploy mechanical drones, never using the same approach long enough for the Nexus to develop countermeasures. "This is impossible." The Vex representative's cybernetic eyes struggled to track the constantly changing battle patterns. "The energy requirements alone are handled by our primitive fusion reactors," Chen completed the thought. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Fusion might be considered outdated by Council standards, but it's reliable, powerful, and most importantly, predictable." The Nexus forces began to show signs of confusion. Their adaptive capabilities, so effective against consistent advanced technology, were overwhelmed by the human fleet's constant changes. When they optimized against energy weapons, they faced kinetic strikes. When they hardened against physical impacts, They were hit with electromagnetic pulses. But the Nexus weren't defeated yet. They began to merge their ships together, forming larger and more complex structures, trying to develop enough processing power to adapt to multiple threats simultaneously. "They're desperate," Rodriguez observed, trying to brute force a solution. Chen's expression was grim but determined. "Then it's time for the knockout punch. All ships, execute Formation Delta. Prepare for synchronized attack." The human fleet moved with practiced precision, forming a complex three-dimensional pattern that would have been familiar to ancient Earth naval commanders, a modified version of crossing the T, adapted for space warfare. "Now," Chen commanded. Every ship in the human fleet attacked simultaneously, each using a different combination of weapons and techniques. The effect was overwhelming. The Nexus, trying to adapt to hundreds of different attack methods at once, couldn't process fast enough. Their merged forms began to break apart under the assault. "We knew they'd try to merge," Chen explained to the Council. "It's what any machine intelligence would do. Try to increase processing power to solve a complex problem. But in doing so, they created a single point of failure. All that processing power, all those adaptations, made them more vulnerable, not less." The battle reached its climax as the human fleet pressed their advantage. Ships switched between weapon systems in carefully choreographed sequences, never giving the Nexus time to adapt to any single approach. The machine intelligence's attempts to absorb and adapt to the attacks became increasingly erratic and ineffective. "This," Chen said softly, "is humanity's true strength. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our ability to be unpredictable, to think outside conventional patterns, to combine the old with the new in ways that no one else would consider." The Nexus forces, their adaptive capabilities overwhelmed, began to retreat. Their once seamless formations broke apart as individual units tried different strategies for survival. But the human fleet, moving with the coordination of years of preparation, gave them no chance to regroup. As the battle entered its final phases, the council chamber was silent, its representatives watching in awe as humanity's primitive fleet systematically dismantled what had seemed to be an invincible enemy. They had learned a crucial lesson. True advancement wasn't about abandoning the old for the new, but about knowing how to use every tool available, whether ancient or modern, in the most effective way possible. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The aftermath. 1 month after the Battle of the Nexus, the Galactic Council chamber had been transformed. Where the human delegation once occupied one of the lowest platforms, they now stood at a level equal to the most established species. But more striking than their physical elevation was the change in how they were perceived. Admiral Chen stood before the assembled council, her primitive uniform now recognized for what it truly was, a statement of humanity's pragmatic philosophy. The chamber was packed, with representatives from every council species eager to understand the race they had so recently dismissed as backwards. "The last Nexus vessels retreated beyond the galactic rim 3 days ago," Chen reported. "Long-range sensors suggest they've abandoned this galaxy entirely. They encountered something they couldn't adapt to: humanity's unpredictability." High Counselor Zixtel's skin rippled with respect patterns. "The galaxy owes humanity a debt we can never fully repay. But more than that, we owe you an apology. We mistook deliberate choice for limitation, wisdom for primitiveness." Chen's response was diplomatic but firm. "No apology is necessary, High Counselor. Our appearance of technological backwardness served its purpose. Had the Nexus realized our true capabilities before we were ready, the outcome might have been very different." The Mercurian representative chimed thoughtfully. "You will share your technology with us now." "Some of it," Chen replied carefully. "But more importantly, we want to share our philosophy." The Chimera fleet wasn't just about the technology. It was about the mindset that created it. The chamber's holographic display activated, showing schematics of human vessels. But these weren't the simplified versions shown before. These revealed the true complexity of humanity's approach to technology. Look at our ships, Chen continued. We don't just combine primitive and advanced technology. We understand why each approach works best in different situations. We don't see technology as a linear progression from primitive to advanced. We see it as a toolbox where every tool has its place. The VEX representatives' cybernetic eyes wared as they studied the schematics. Your ships, they're designed to function at multiple technological levels simultaneously. Even if advanced systems fail, the primitive ones continue working. Exactly, Chen nodded. Humanity learned through hard experience that relying solely on advanced technology creates vulnerability. The AI wars taught us that. The climate crisis reinforced it. Every major challenge we faced showed us that true resilience comes from maintaining capabilities at all technological levels. The council chamber buzzed with discussion as the implications sank in. The Auroran representative's skin pulsed with curiosity patterns. This will require a complete restructuring of our military doctrine, our industrial base, our educational systems. Yes, Chen agreed. But consider the alternative. The Nexus wasn't the first threat to exploit over-reliance on advanced technology, and they won't be the last. The galaxy needs to learn what humanity learned. That progress isn't about abandoning the old, but about finding new ways to use everything at our disposal. High Counselor Zixtal raised a hand for silence. Humanity has not just saved the galaxy. They have shown us a new way forward. Therefore, I propose the creation of a new council position, Strategic Innovation Director. Admiral Chen, would you accept this role? Chen's expression remained neutral, but those who knew her could see the satisfaction in her eyes. This was the opportunity humanity had hoped for. A chance to help shape the galaxy's future, to ensure that civilization would be better prepared for the next threat. I would be honored, she replied, but with one condition. We must establish a comprehensive defense program that incorporates all levels of technology. Every species must maintain capabilities across the technological spectrum, from the most basic to the most advanced. The Council's approval was unanimous. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change. Species that had abandoned primitive technology began to relearn old skills. Military vessels were redesigned to incorporate multiple technological levels. Training programs were established to teach the art of technological flexibility. But perhaps the most profound change was in how the galaxy viewed advancement itself. The linear progression from primitive to advanced was replaced by a more nuanced understanding. That true sophistication lay in knowing when to use which approach. 1 year after the battle, Admiral Chen stood in her new office in the Council headquarters, looking out at the same view she had first seen from the Tenacity. Captain Rodriguez, now her chief of staff, joined her. The VEX have successfully tested their first hybrid ship, he reported. The Aurorans are introducing mechanical backup systems for their electronic interfaces. Even the Mercurians are experimenting with physical weapons alongside their energy-based ones. Chen nodded, satisfied. And the Chimera fleet, still out there, patrolling the rim, still looking like a bunch of primitive vessels to anyone who doesn't know better. Rodriguez smiled. Some habits are worth keeping. Yes, Chen agreed, watching as a newly commissioned council vessel passed by, its design clearly showing both human and alien influences. The galaxy learned an important lesson. Never mistake simplicity for weakness or complexity for strength. The vessel's design was a perfect metaphor for the new era, elegant alien aesthetics combined with practical human engineering. It was neither primitive nor advanced, but something new entirely. Something better. You know, Rodriguez mused, they still haven't figured out half of what our ships can do. Chen's smile was subtle but genuine. Good. Let's keep it that way. After all, humanity still has a few surprises left. Above them, the galaxy spun on, its civilizations forever changed by the day. Humans revealed their obsolete fleet, and in doing so, redefined what it meant to be truly advanced.